Hello. Oh man, so I've been in so many interesting conversations today with clients and myself, and I want to talk about time and boundaries. Boundaries is a concept that I have a lot of passion around. I did a TEDx talk about how to create a world without borders, which could have been a talk of how to create a world without boundaries. And time is something that's so interesting because all of us want more of it, but we can't have more because there's only so much. So let me start with time. So I was in conversation today with a client, and we're talking about time and how there's a couple of clients actually about how there's just not enough time, and so there's stress that I can't get everything done. And then we're actually looking at when you're trying to get everything done, what actually happens? Well, what actually happens is you're cramming lots of stuff in. Stuff's falling by the wayside. Stuff that you want to get done isn't getting done. So you're saying things and not doing them, which is weakening your word and your impeccability. And in addition to that, you are run down and you have low energy. And the things that you are doing, you bring low energy to. Like you spend time with your partner and you're not really there. You're not really present. Your mind's all over the place. You're too tired to really enjoy yourself. And in addition to that, the things that you're doing when you're cramming all the work stuff that you're doing, something really important is atrophies and is less powerful than it would be if you weren't cramming things together. And that thing is impact. And so for me, in my world, in the work that I do, and I think this is the case for most people, if not all people, is that the more impact you have, the more success you have. And so if doing a lot, using my time to do a lot, if I'm cramming a lot in, actually brings down my impact, then maybe doing more isn't how I have more impact. But I think we often think that it is. So I've got this just a little graph. Look how prepared I am. Okay, it's not full riff. It's like 99% riff today because I'm prepared. But let's riff with here. So if this is impact on this side and this is doing stuff on this side, this is what people think. This is what people think it works. The more stuff I do, the more impact I have. It's probably a straight line, not a squiggly one. This is what people think it works. I don't think it works like that. I think it looks more like this. I think that this is kind of like a bell curve, and that in the beginning, the more you do, the more impact you have. The more you do, the more impact you have. But then, at a certain point, because there's only 168 hours in a week, that doing more starts to undermine your impact. Doing more starts to undermine your impact. There's a point where now I'm trying to do so much that I can't even have impact anywhere at all because I'm all over the place. I'm not present with anybody. I'm freaking tired all the time. My brain is scattered. I'm not being impactful. So if that's the case and there's some kind of sweet spot, there's some kind of point, balance point we could call it, at which I'm both doing and not doing, that has my impact be the highest. And this is the way it came out today. I'm just creating this now with you. Is the idea was so over here is the doing, right? And then what if I only did this much instead? And then over here is the stuff I'm not doing. And what if the not doing, we could call it non-doing, what if from the non-doing, the space and thus not doing stuff, relaxing, just being with ourselves, doing something we enjoy outside of the work, the non-impact generating, directly impact generating activities, what if that non-doing was what created the state of being from which the doings emerged that were more impactful? So what if the time we spend non-doing generates the state of being from which the most impactful doings automatically emerge? Then it would make sense to find this balance point, to not try to cram everything in and to try to do more, like not fall for the dotted line fallacy, but actually see that actually there's a sweet spot where I can balance non-doing with doing, and actually my net impact is higher. If I want to maximize my impact, I need to find the balance between these things. And that can happen at different chunk levels. Client I was talking to has kind of figured it out how in the course of a year, taking a month off over the course of a year creates this makes the year more balanced. But actually, let's take that whole idea, that whole structure, and bring it down into hour by hour. You know, what if 10 minutes of every hour or something, however you want to chunk it, or like these many hours of a day. Whatever level you have to chunk it at, but it's going to, this line isn't the same for everybody. I mean, there's people that can do a lot more than me and be more impactful, and there's probably different reasons for it as well. But for me, I know for me to have my highest energy, I need a certain amount of space to not be doing, so that when I am doing, I've got all my energy and I'm all there. But once you know that, okay, that's half the battle, but then what? What's next? Well, it's being able to actually create the container of time where I'm not doing stuff. And so what do you mean by create the container of time where you're not doing stuff? Well, for example, in my schedule, I don't work after 5. I just don't. It's like that. I can't be doing work after 5 because I just don't do that. That's just who I am. That's just my rule. I don't work before 9 either because I have my baby in the morning and I'm hanging out with him in the evenings and with my wife and things. That's just what it is. So that's an example of it. But this is where the word boundaries come in. And that's an interesting word. And my friend Peter was talking about this on Facebook this week and asking some questions. So Peter, if you see this, I'd love you to hear what I have to share as well. And I was in conversation with it today with a guy as well. And the first thing that comes up, it's like, you know what, I need to set some strong boundaries around my time so that I can have time for non-doing, so that I can bring my energy up, my focus, my presence, and so that when I am doing, I'm more impactful. So I need to set boundaries. I need to protect my time. But this word boundary, I don't like it. I want to create a world without boundaries, without borders. And why? Because a boundary is something that's created to protect something. That's the point of a boundary. I'm creating this boundary so you can't come past this, you Mexican people, or you time leecher, whoever you are. Let's take a word of boundary so you can't come and take from me. And so using the word boundary invokes its origin, invokes its motivation, right? When you use a word, it invokes everything in that word. And so if I'm setting boundaries, it's being born from my desire to protect, first of all, but it's also by using that word, I'm invoking that desire to protect. Even if I'm not thinking about it intentionally, it's there. I got to protect this. But it's as you invoke the desire to protect, you bring with you all this baggage and all this fear and all this concern, all this worry. And then you have to have like courage and strength to uphold it. And so in my world, which has 0 boundaries in it, how do I have time that's contained for something important like non-doing? I just use different language, but the different language brings with it different implications, different energies, different intentions, different meaning. The language I use, the word I use instead of boundaries is structure. So this wall in my place over here, can I turn this without falling? Hello. This wall, we could say this wall's a boundary. It's protecting me from the elements outside. But we don't really talk about walls like that. Well, not maybe walls for Mexico, but not walls for a house or a building. Whoa, Jesus. I need a boundary to keep that thing up. You okay? All right, relax. But so this wall isn't a boundary, it's a structure. Physically, it's both. But the structure versus boundary is just an idea, it's a meaning. So what meaning am I going to ascribe to this thing? This thing called a line on my calendar that work doesn't happen on the other side of, am I going to call it a boundary or am I going to call it a structure? What does it make a difference? Come on, it's just words. No, it's not just words. The words bring things with them. They bring meaning with them. And so this is structure. And the thing that structures do is they create. Boundaries protect, structures create. So I have a structure that says I work between 9 and 5. I have a structure that keeps the sun out and keeps this place dry so that it creates dry space, so that it creates quiet, so that I can have a space to work. Structure is about creation. So it might sound too simple. It might sound too simple that if I just start saying what are my structures instead of what are my boundaries, that's going to change everything. Well, try it. Try it. Try it out. If you start saying, I'm going to create these structures, then what happens is every time you acknowledge the structure, every time somebody asks for something that comes against the structure, it's not like, oh, I got to protect this and uphold this boundary. It's like, oh, they're meeting that thing that's creating something. You're reminded that this is an act of creation and you're in creation with them. So that doesn't fit because I'm creating this thing called being with my wife and son in the evening. That doesn't fit because I'm creating this thing called being with my son in the morning. That doesn't fit because it's crashing this thing. I have a structure called Family Day on Sunday, so that doesn't fit there. I would put it there, but I can't because I have a structure that's creating something really important to me. I don't have to protect anything. I'm building something over here, right? So, rewind. Your greatest impact, which yields your most success, probably, doesn't come from doing the most. It comes from finding that sweet spot between doing and non-doing, because your non-doing creates the state of being from which the most impactful doing emerges. And then, once you can see that, get that, start feeling into that, where do I need space for non-doing? Oh, I got to create some boundaries to protect. Nah, slow down. I want to create structure in my life that generates space for non-doing. No protection here. No fear, no worry. Space. I create structures that generate space for non-doing because that creates my most impactful doings. If you have questions, leave them down below. I'll get back to you. Much love. Bye for now. Bam!